G'day viewers, I hope you've got a really big cuppa. And thanks to British Ace for this really cool bus mug from Brighton and Hove. Excellent human British Ace. If you don't know his channel, go take a look. Anyway, West Coast Main Line, Preston Carlisle coming soon. There's actually a release date, but we'll get to that at the end because I'm going to torture you a little bit. There's a Class 87 electric thingy sitting in the platform with a rake of Mark 3A coaches, 110 mile an hour. Tap into the 1980s. Bad pun because the 87's a tap changer locomotive, just like the German ones. Tap into 1980s nostalgia and run up Just Train's stunning and immersive West Coast Main Line, Preston to Carlisle, coming on the 21st of November to Train Sim World 5. Introducing Just Trains and West Coast Main Line over SHAP. Just Trains are one of our program partner developers who work on their own routes and locomotives for Train Sim World. Last year, Just Trains made their Train Sim World debut with the release of... Did I say debut? Debut! With the release of the Blackpool Branches add-on featuring the Class 142 Pacer diesel multiple unit, which isn't one of these. This is a Class 87. And there's a 101 over the other side. For their next release, they've continued to push the boundaries by developing the longest UK route in Train Sim World and introducing more sought-after rolling stock with the Class 87 locomotive and Mark 3A coaches. A full timetable of 1980s services featuring the add-on along with conductor mode functionality and plenty of layering for players that own other routes, and locomotive add-ons set in and around the same era. More on that later. There's a lot to get into here, no kidding. So below, find a summary of the rolling stock, route and gameplay elements that you can look forward to. Let's get into the rolling stock. We're starting with the BR Class 87/0 electric locomotive, plus BR Mark 3A coaches, FFA, FGA container flats and BBA steel wagons. Now we see an image here with the City of Liverpool on a Class 87 electric locomotive. Labelled Work in Progress, of course. New to Train Sim World is the Class 87 electric locomotive, the first electric locomotive to be added to the British fleet in-game. This classic traction from the 1970s quickly became the star of the West Coast Main Line during the 1980s, when the nationalised British rail branding was widespread across the entire UK rail network, and looks like perhaps it might be again soon. In-game, the Class 87 will provide a totally unique driving experience in Train Sim World. An advanced style of operation offers a real challenge to players familiar with more modern electric units and diesel locomotives, and is equally distinct from the large roster of electric locomotives seen in German add-ons. There you go, we have a British Rail van, a couple of them, sitting on platform 3, ready to run over the passengers arriving from the intercity with the Class 87. In Just Train's own words, this loco takes you back to the much more interesting time when you drove a bit more by the seat of your pants and had to think and plan a lot more. At the centre of this is tap changer operation. This phrase will be familiar to players of some of the older German locomotives in Train Sim World, like the BR103 and 111. With this comes a degree of jeopardy, with the potential to fail if not operated correctly. The main circuit breaker, MCB, will trip, cutting power to the drive motors if you try and demand higher power than the train can supply. It does look like quite a magic cab. It's really nicely weathered. We're looking at it in the image here. All of the gauges look pretty good. You can see it's air brake and vacuum apparently. Or is it just vacuum? No, it might be just vacuum. No, it's air brake and vacuum. So we'll see how that goes. It does look nice, nicely weathered, chewed up. Particularly like the tape on the throttle handle. In addition to this, the Class 87 has a number of notable and unique features. Authentic neutral section operation, unique in Train Sim World. Fully accessible loco corridor machine room, including operating controls. You can walk fully between the cab ends. Fully authentic sound set supplied by Armstrong Powerhouse. Oh, that'll give people a bit of a chubby, won't it? A unique and large number of locomotive nameplates are included. Includes 2 liveries, locomotive operating tutorials, ability to start from a totally dead state, realistic simulgraph train dynamics based on real-world data. Just Trains have also employed the use of real-world Class 87 engineer to ensure the authenticity of the in-game driving experience. And if the sounds are coming through my sound filter, excuse the other half in the background who's making as much noise in the kitchen as she possibly can, because that's what she does. Anyway, you can see here a Class 87 in a different livery, hauling some Mark IIIA coaches. Using TrainSim World 5's new photo mode improvements can make for some excellent prototypical shots of the era, such as this taken by Product Marketing Coordinator James. And I think what they're talking about is the really bad film that we used to have in the 80s. Though today they have since been replaced by more modern electric multiple units, a single mainline certified example of the Class 87 still sees rail tour action along the West Coast main line, much to the delight of enthusiasts. Players with TrainSim World 5's core West Coast mainline route, London Euston to Milton Keynes, will be able to use free roam to run rail tour services in a modern setting. Players of Deluxe Edition may also wish to operate the Class 390 on Just Train stretch of the West Coast main line in free roam, albeit during an era from before these trains were introduced. You can read more about the development of the Class 87 in the Just Trains development blog. We've actually been through all of those in the past, so I won't go and do that now. We can see here some passengers sitting in what look like Mark IIIA coaches inside. I do notice the LODs on the platform signs are not that hot, but that's okay. Also new to TrainSim World are the eagerly awaited Mark IIIA passenger coaches, which were permitted to achieve a slightly higher speed of 110 mile an hour over the Mark II variants of 100 mile an hour. And there's also the BR Class 101 DMU on the Morecambe branch. Running alongside the high-speed express services are local trains served by the Class 101 diesel multiple unit, as previously seen in the Northern Transpennine and Tees Valley route add-ons. These classic first-generation diesel multiple units from the 1950s ran through until 2003 and saw action across a large number of main and branch lines, including the Northwest. From the West Coast main line, Preston to Carlisle release, the Class 101 has been worked on to provide a number of improvements on previous releases. These include the addition of suspension physics, enhanced audio, updated interior textures, updated destination blinds, exhaust smoke effects. The Class 101 DMU is included in the West Coast main line Preston to Carlisle route add-on. Players do not need to own previously released content to access these cars. And there's the BR Class 08 Shunter. Some, I suppose they're TEAs, aren't they? Tank wagons. Offering up shunting gameplay is the dependable Class 08 Shunter, or Gronk. This ubiquitous engine has seen action across 8 decades, from its original use in depots and yards frequented by steam locomotives, through to use in the preservation movement and continued use on mainline yards into the 21st century. We even have these in Australia, although there's none in use anymore. We had them on the Victorian Railways. They were called the F-Class. Class 08 services will occupy the yards and stations at Preston and Carlisle, providing a shorter, more engaging style of gameplay that involves moving stock between roads and getting trains ready for haulage by other locomotives. The Class 08 Shunter is included in the West Coast main line Preston to Carlisle route add-on. Players do not need to own previously released content to access these cars. BR Class 47/4 diesel locomotive. You can see one here in the fog with its high intensity light beaming away, as distinct from the candles that used to be on British trains. For players wanting a familiar locomotive to operate between Preston and Carlisle, the Class 47/4 returns, having been seen in multiple TrainSim World route add-ons in various guises, including Blackpool branches. The difference in operation between this and the Class 87 will offer 2 distinct experiences for players along the length of the route, and a way for players to learn the route prior to taking on the challenge of the Class 87. So there's the 47 trundling away on the route over a bridge. The modelling around the water and water's edge looks very nice there. Modelling along the fencing, foliage looks very good. No mathematical progression in the foliage, so it's probably hand planted or at least randomised. Like the Blackpool branches variants, these locomotives feature nameplate and livery variation, as well as some smoke effect improvements and visual differences over some of the older versions from previous Train Sim World add-ons, including suspension physics. The Class 47/4 diesel locomotive is included in the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route add-on. Players do not need to own previously released content to access these cars. The route, Preston to Carlisle plus the Morecambe branch. With almost 100 miles of track included, West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle is the longest UK route in Train Sim World. This dramatic and high-speed stretch of the line forms part of the much longer real-world West Coast Main Line extending from London Euston through to Scotland. Let's see here the line's running through a valley in a hilly area. Scenery looks relatively nice. Again, there's no mathematical progression. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. There is up on the Brown Hill here. So there's a little bit, but mostly it's pretty good. So near the track, it's good. Preston will be familiar to players of Just Train's previous route add-on, Blackpool branches, who'll be able to make use of Train Sim World 5's new route hopping feature to port between the two add-ons. From here, the West Coast Main Line continues to extend north, facilitating gameplay down to the next station of the line, Lancaster. This northern city, whose name links the famous House of Lancaster and the wider county of Lancashire, is also where a branch line splits off for some additional short-form gameplay to the seaside town of Morecambe via Bear Lane. You can see here there's a diesel hauled service sitting in a platform. I'm trying to figure out which station that actually is, but I don't know enough about this route to pick it, to be honest. Train will pass through Carnforth Station. Well, there you go. There we go. We know now it's Carnforth Station. During this area, the Steamtown Museum was located. Oxenholme further north then provides real-world jumping-off point for passengers keen to explore the Lake District. On this stretch of the famous Shap Summit will provide a challenge for those driving any kind of traction climbing up to the highest point on the West Coast Main Line. I think we'll have to do it in a Gronk. Seems fair. You can see here there's a 47, an 87 and a Gronk hanging around at the depot. After a call at Penrith towards the northern end of the Lake District, players will reach the city of Carlisle, which not only features the station, but also the nearby Kingmore depot. You can read more about the real-world history of some of the stations and locations in the development blog. We've been through all of those. Timetable, services, and gameplay. We won't look at this video because we've looked at it before, but I do encourage you to have a look. It is actually quite a good one, and I'll pop in a link. It's a time-lapse for one of the stations. The timetable for this portion of the West Coast Main Line will depict a full 24-hour weekday based on the working timetable from the era and a trip notice booklet for the region. This will use the available rolling stock to feature high-speed express trains running from Preston through to Carlisle, as well as local, main and freight services, including the Morecambe branch. Now, I might unpack one of those sentences a little bit. This will use the available rolling stock. That means there's some stuff missing. Just being clear about that. Also featured is up to 6 hours of shunting gameplay at Carlisle using the Class 08 in multiple trip workings. If I interpret that, that would suggest it's a little bit like what they did on San Bernardino, where you finish one service and you can return to free roam and you're already in the next one. In this shot we can see Flying Scotsman going over a tall viaduct with some nice sunlit rays coming through the portal. In addition, the timetable will further be filled with services and substitution from other Train Sim World add-ons. Players with other add-ons in their collection will be able to see and operate the following services on West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle. I just had a thought. If this is set in the late 80s, Flying Scotsman was in Australia. 1988, 1989. So it'll have to be before that, won't it? In fact, it would have been apple green in that time frame too, not that colour, but that's okay. Players with other add-ons in their collection will be able to see and operate the following services on West Coast Main Line, Preston to Carlisle. If you've got Blackpool branches, you'll get the Class 142 diesel multiple unit and TEA wagons. West Cornwall Local will give you the Sea Cow and Turbo wagons. Tees Valley Line for the HEA wagons. Northern Transpennine will give you the Class 45 diesel locomotive. Spirit of Steam for the LMS Jubilee steam locomotive. Mark 1 coaches, 16-tonne mineral wagon and 20-tonne brake van. BR Heavy Freight Pack for the Class 40 diesel locomotive. BR Class 31 Loco add-on for the Class 31 and PCA wagons. BR Class 20 Loco add-on for the Class 20 and PGA wagons, and the LNER Class A3 60103 Flying Scotsman. Now, that does mean if you want to see a fully operational timetable, you do need, being really clear about it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other DLC. So, what's that, about $500 worth? So if you've already got those, great. But if you don't have those, hopefully they're substituting those things with stuff that's already in the route so that you do actually have the services. We shall see when it comes out. One of the cool things about actually taking a break from beta at the moment is I have no idea what's coming out. So I'll be just as surprised as you. Due to the technical limitations of 8th generation consoles, the level of some of the available features is reduced, and a separate reduced timetable will be available to players on those consoles. Let me read that again. You're on Gen 8, you're in the poo. There we go. You won't get as much. Now we've got a shot of a 47 class sitting in a refueling depot by the looks of things. We have... that safety vest isn't the right era. That's a 2000s safety vest, I think. Maybe a little bit before that, but I don't think it's an 80s safety vest. There are 5 scenarios on the Preston to Carlisle. Broken down, the Class 47/4. An express train has failed at Penrith and requires rescuing. Starting at Kingmore Depot, you will be briefed by a member of staff before finding your rescue locomotive. A cold start will be performed before meeting the failed Class 87. So you're driving the 47/4 and you're picking up at 87. Tap Changer, Class 87/0. Haul a passenger service between Preston and Carlisle on a wintry day. No doubt a few snow flurries will occur along the way, so be extra vigilant with the braking as you call at Lancaster, Oxenholme and Penrith before the final stop at Carlisle. Otherwise you might Nebworth is what they're saying. Curragh Collection, Class 08. Curragh is located in the southwest of Carlisle Station. It has a dedicated wagon works shed, which oversees many repairs to rolling stock on a regular basis to ensure they are fit for service. Your task is to convey a mixed rake of BBA steel wagons along with FFA, FGA container flats to the works at Kingmore. On arrival, you'll find a fresh set of wagons waiting to be returned back to Kingmore. So we're doing a bit of a local pick-up and drop-off service, basically. And we can see there a Class 87 in the sun. Southbound Liner, Class 87/0. Haul a heavy container train from Carlisle North Yard to south to Preston. You will be looped at several places along the way. The weather is booked to be sun with patchy cloud along the way. First generation stopper, the Class 101 3-car diesel multiple unit. Join a Class 101 at Carnforth Station, working the last leg of the service from Leeds to Morecambe via Lancaster during the evening rush hour. You will run back in service again in the reverse direction as far as Carnforth. What are the collectibles? We've got a shot of Bear Lane Station here. There will also be collectibles to hunt down, including parcels trolleys, miniature castles, route maps, mint cake, which nearby Kendal is famous for, and rail tour posters. What's that? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Some of these will be located in explorable buildings and locations, including fully modded signal boxes at selected places on this route. So you get to go inside the buildings and look for them, which is very cool. Finding it tricky to get to all the locations during your session, you can of course cheat, sort of, by using TrainSim World 5's new fast travel feature to immediately go back to locations where you may have missed a collectible. I usually, when I bother doing it, I just jump in a class 8, regardless of the route, and just cruise along, and whenever I see one, I jam it to a stop and go and pick up the thing. I don't usually bother actually collecting them all, but sometimes you get into the challenge and you feel like doing it. Mastery challenges require you to perform certain tasks on a route, like completing certain scenarios or travelling a certain number of miles in a specific locomotive. Tier 1 challenges unlock decals for use in Livery Designer. Tier 2 challenges unlock toggleable scenery tiles. So they've told us about that, but not revealed in the slightest what the toggleable tile is. Train Sim World 5 West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route add-on will release on the 21st of November for Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Epic Game Store and Steam for £32.99, €39.99 or $44.99. That's a little higher than the usual price, so it appears we've had an increase. Guessing wise, 60 to 65 probably for the Aussies would be my bet, somewhere around there. Keep an eye out for further articles, videos and previews between now and release on Dovetail Live and on the Just Trains development blog. And there will be a preview stream on the 14th of November on YouTube and Twitch for the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle, featuring a member of the Just Trains team. Well, there you go. So there's quite a lot of stuff coming out. The scenarios seem to be relatively imagination-filled, better than the straight-up ones we get occasionally, which just drive one end of the route to the other like a service. So looking forward to it. The route itself is mostly looking nice. I spotted a few mistakes here and there and things that I'd like to see addressed, but that's life, isn't it? Wait till we see the real route. That's when the proof will be in the pudding. And the use of AP sounds will no doubt get some people intensely excited because they have this unreasonable idea that AP is actually better than anybody else. They're not. But that's okay. That's fine. Anyway, have fun, folks. That's all of it. If you think I'm a knob and I've been a little too harsh, feel free to comment down below. But I look forward to the route. It does look genuine like it'll be a bit of fun gameplay. Alrighty, enjoy yourselves. See you later. Bye.
We played a game.